You wake up before the sun, not because you want to. Nobody in ancient Egypt wakes up feeling fresh and excited. There are no soft mattresses, no cool air from a fan, no 5 more minutes under the blanket, just heat. Even before sunrise, the air already feels warm and heavy. Your bed is basically a woven reed mat laid across a hard floor. Your back hurts? Your neck hurts? Honestly, everything hurts. And the mosquitoes have spent the entire night treating you like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Welcome to ancient Egypt. Your tiny mud brick house is still dark. The walls helped keep out some heat during the night, but not enough. A few family members are sleeping nearby. Very nearby. Privacy does not exist here. Personal space is more of a future invention. A goat is also somewhere in the house. You can smell it before you can see it. Outside, the first light begins to spread over the Nile River. And for one peaceful second, it actually looks beautiful. The sky turns soft orange. Palm trees sway gently in the distance. Birds glide low over the water. It almost tricks you into thinking this life might be relaxing. Then somebody coughs loudly beside you. Reality returns immediately. You sit up slowly, brushing dust from your linen clothes. Linen sounds fancy today, but back then it was basically the standard fabric for surviving the Egyptian heat without melting into the ground. Rich people wore soft white linen. Yours is rougher, scratchier, probably smells a little strange after days of hard work under the sun. Bathing exists, of course, but staying clean in ancient Egypt is kind of like trying to keep your phone clean at the beach. Dust always wins. Your breakfast is already waiting. Bread, thin. Not fluffy warm bread either. This bread is dense, coarse, and sometimes filled with tiny bits of sand from the grinding stones used to make flour. Ancient Egyptian bread had a fun little side effect where it slowly destroyed your teeth over time. So breakfast is both food and dental damage. You dip the bread into weak beer, because yes, people drank beer in the morning here. Before you judge them too hard, remember the river water could easily make you sick. Beer was often safer. Honestly, ancient Egypt might be the only place where having a light buzz before sunrise counts as hydration. Children are already awake now. Workers are moving outside. Somewhere nearby, animals are making noise. Donkeys bray loudly. Birds circle overhead. Someone is carrying baskets toward the river. The entire world feels like it wakes up early because the sun becomes dangerous later. And that sun is coming. You step outside into the narrow dirt streets of your village. Mud brick homes sit close together, baked dry under years of brutal heat. Some roofs are flat enough for sleeping during hotter nights. Others are piled with tools, baskets, or fishing nets. The smell outside is complicated. Part bread ovens, part river mud, part sweat, part animals, and absolutely no deodorant anywhere. Ancient Egyptians actually cared a lot about hygiene compared to many ancient cultures. People shaved body hair to fight lice. Wealthier Egyptians used oils and perfumes. Some even wore cone-shaped wax perfumes on their heads during parties that slowly melted in the heat. Which sounds fancy until you imagine scented candle wax dripping down your forehead during dinner. Still, no amount of perfume can fully defeat 37 degrees of desert heat. As the sun climbs higher, the village becomes louder. Farmers prepare tools. Women grind grain by hand. Children carry water jars. Workers begin long walks toward fields, temples, or construction sites. Nobody is relaxing, because surviving ancient Egypt is a full-time job. And if you are poor, which you probably are, every single day depends on hard physical labor. There is no weekend, no vacation, no staying home because you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed by existence. The Nile floods when it wants. Crops grow when they can. Taxes still arrive no matter how tired you are. And taxes in ancient Egypt are serious business. If officials think you did not give enough grain to the state, life can become very unpleasant very quickly. Egyptian scribes carefully recorded harvests, livestock, and supplies. These men were basically human spreadsheets with sandals. And they always seemed to know when you were struggling. As morning continues, the heat grows heavier. The sunlight reflects off pale sand and mud walls so brightly that you almost squint constantly. Sweat forms instantly. Your feet are dusty. Flies appear from nowhere with military-level organization. Somehow there are always flies. And the workday has barely started. But for a moment, pause and look around. In the distance, you can see enormous temples rising above the landscape. Massive stone pillars covered in carved symbols. Statues of gods staring silently across the riverbanks. Boats drifting slowly along the Nile carrying grain, stone, animals, and people. This is one of the richest and most powerful kingdoms on earth. And yet most people here live very hard lives. That is the strange thing about ancient Egypt. From far away, thousands of years later, we picture gold masks, giant pyramids, treasure rooms, and mighty pharaohs. But most Egyptians never touched treasure. Most Egyptians spent their lives farming, carrying water, grinding grain, raising children, paying taxes, and trying not to die from disease before middle age. Even sleep itself is difficult. The nights can be cooler, but insects never really leave. The sounds of animals continue long after dark. Families crowd together inside hot homes while smoke from cooking fires drifts through the air. And tomorrow morning? You wake up and do it all again. The Nile will still flow quietly beside you. The desert will still stretch endlessly beyond the fields. And the sun will rise once more over ancient Egypt, whether you are ready for it or not. The sun is higher now, much higher, and ancient Egypt has officially turned into a giant outdoor oven. By mid-morning, the heat presses against your skin like a heavy blanket somebody forgot to remove. Sweat runs down your neck. Dust sticks to your arms. The air smells like mud, dry grass, and river water baking under the sun. And through all of this, one thing matters more than anything else: the Nile. Without the Nile River, ancient Egypt does not exist. Not becomes weaker. Not has a bad economy. It straight up does not exist. Because beyond the narrow green edges of the river lies the desert. Endless desert. Dry, silent, empty desert. The kind of place where you walk for hours and begin questioning every life choice that brought you there. But near the Nile, life explodes everywhere. Fields of wheat sway in the wind. Date palms rise beside irrigation canals. Fishermen push wooden boats through calm water. Children splash near muddy banks while adults yell at them to stay away from crocodiles. Which is honestly fair parenting advice. You walk toward the river carrying buckets with other workers from your village. The ground near the Nile feels softer now, thick with wet soil left behind by earlier floods. Tiny insects buzz over the water. Birds dart through the reeds hunting fish. For a moment, it feels peaceful. Then someone points at the water. A crocodile. Everybody immediately backs away. The Nile crocodile is not some small little swamp lizard. These things are massive. Ancient Egyptians respected them for a reason. A fully grown crocodile can grow longer than a small boat and has absolutely no interest in your survival. And crocodiles are not even the only problem. Hippos live here too. Now today, hippos mostly look funny. Big water potatoes with tiny ears. Ancient Egyptian hippos were basically river tanks fueled by rage. Farmers feared them because they destroyed crops and overturned boats. A bad hippo encounter could ruin your entire day very quickly, assuming you survived it at all. Still, despite the dangers, the Nile is everything. You drink from it. You bathe in it. You fish in it. You travel on it. You build your life around it. And every year, you wait for it to flood. That sounds terrifying at first, but the flooding is actually what keeps Egypt alive. Each year, the Nile rises and spills across the land, covering fields with rich dark mud perfect for farming. The Egyptians even called this fertile soil the Black Land. Because without that black soil, nothing grows. No wheat, no vegetables, no food, no kingdom, no giant pyramids later for tourists to stare at while holding overpriced water bottles. Everything depends on the flood arriving at the right time. And that means the entire country lives with constant anxiety. Too little flooding? Crops fail. Too much flooding? Homes and fields get destroyed. Wrong timing? Also terrible. Imagine your entire survival depending on one river behaving properly every year. That is ancient Egypt. There are no backup systems here. No imported emergency food. No supermarkets. No weather apps warning you about climate problems. Just thousands of people staring at a river and hoping things work out. Honestly, ancient Egyptians spent a lot of time hoping things worked out. You kneel beside an irrigation canal with other workers. These canals help carry river water into the fields farther from the Nile itself. Maintaining them is exhausting work. Mud sticks to your legs while the sun burns overhead. Workers dig with simple wooden tools, passing baskets of dirt back and forth. Everybody is sweating. Nobody is smiling. A foreman walks nearby shouting instructions while scribes record labor and supplies. Scribes rarely do the hard physical work themselves. They mostly stand around writing things while everyone else slowly turns into human raisins under the sun. This is why becoming a scribe is basically the ancient Egyptian dream. Your arms ache as you work. The mud smells thick and earthy. Gnats swarm around your face. Somewhere nearby, a donkey makes a sound like it has personally given up on life. Relatable. Hours pass slowly. The heat becomes almost unreal by midday. The sunlight reflects off the water so brightly it hurts your eyes. Workers wrap cloth around their heads for protection, but it barely helps. And remember, this is normal life. This is not punishment. This is just Tuesday. You stop briefly to eat a small meal beside the canal. More bread, maybe onions, maybe dried fish if you are lucky. Ancient Egyptian workers actually loved onions. Garlic too. They believed both helped give strength and endurance. So your lunch basically tastes like survival and aggressive breath. As you eat, boats drift along the Nile nearby. Some carry grain taxes toward storehouses. Others transport giant stone blocks for temples and tombs farther north. The river acts like Egypt's main highway. Travel by land through the desert is slow and dangerous. But boats? Boats connect the kingdom together. The Nile flows quietly through everything. Religion, power, even death. Many Egyptians believe the river itself is a gift from the gods. And honestly, looking around, it is hard to disagree. Without it, this place would become empty desert almost overnight. But the Nile also brings sickness. The water can carry parasites and disease. Mosquitoes breed near marshes. Infections spread easily in crowded villages. People know the river gives life, but they also know it can kill. That balance hangs over every part of Egyptian life. By late afternoon, the air finally begins cooling slightly. Long shadows stretch across the riverbanks. Workers move slower now, drained from the heat. You carry your tools home beside dozens of others walking dusty paths along the Nile. Everyone looks exhausted. And tomorrow? You will wake before sunrise and return again. Because the river never stops demanding work. The Nile feeds Egypt, but it also owns Egypt. Every farmer, every laborer, every fisherman, every child born beside these waters understands one truth better than anything else. If the river fails, so do you. And tonight, as darkness slowly settles over the banks of the Nile, thousands of Egyptians will fall asleep wondering what the next flood will bring.